Writing. Megan Carter had learned one painful lesson long before her 28th birthday. Sometimes the people who smiled at you in public were the very ones planning to ruin your life in private. The morning she was told she had to marry a poor single father she'd never met, she thought her life was over. She had no idea that the quiet man standing in old jeans, holding the hand of a little girl with bright blue eyes, was hiding a secret that would change everything she believed about love, family, and true wealth. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. If you enjoy emotional stories about kindness, justice, family, and unforgettable life lessons, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Megan had spent 5 years helping run her late father's construction company. After he passed away, she believed she would inherit the business he had built from nothing. Instead, she discovered her father had left the company under the control of his business partner, Victor Lang, until she turned 30. Victor smiled as he handed her the papers. "I'm only following your father's wishes." Megan frowned. "My father trusted me." "He did," Victor replied smoothly. "But he also wanted to protect the company." Then he slid another document across the desk. "There is one condition." She looked down. If Megan married before her 30th birthday, she would immediately receive her father's shares. If she refused, Victor would legally control the company for another 2 years. She stared at him. "This doesn't sound like my father." Victor shrugged. "Take it or leave it." A week later, Victor introduced her to a man named Daniel Brooks. Daniel wore worn-out work boots, a faded flannel shirt, and drove an old pickup truck that rattled every time it stopped. Standing beside him was his 6-year-old daughter, Lily. She held a stuffed rabbit missing one ear. Victor smiled. "Daniel needs stability. You need a husband." Megan couldn't believe what she was hearing. "This is ridiculous." Daniel looked just as uncomfortable. "I don't want anyone forced into this." Victor folded his arms. "You both have something to gain." Daniel lowered his eyes. "I'll understand if you walk away." Megan looked at Lily. The little girl smiled nervously. "Hi." That tiny voice broke something inside Megan. 3 days later, they were married at the courthouse. No music. No flowers. No celebration. Just signatures. As they walked outside, Daniel spoke quietly. "I know this isn't the life you wanted." She sighed. "Probably not yours either." He smiled sadly. "No." The marriage was awkward from the beginning. Daniel lived in a small rented house outside town. The roof leaked during storms. The kitchen cabinets were old. The furniture had scratches everywhere. Megan had grown up comfortably, but she never complained. Instead, she noticed something unexpected. Daniel never raised his voice. Every morning he packed Lily's lunch with little handwritten notes. Every evening he read bedtime stories until she fell asleep. He fixed neighbors' broken fences for free. He shoveled snow from elderly people's driveways without being asked. One afternoon Megan finally asked, "Why are you always helping everyone?" Daniel shrugged. "Because someday I'll need help too." She laughed softly. "You really believe that?" "I do." Weeks passed. The marriage slowly became less like an arrangement and more like a friendship. Lily began calling Megan her best friend. One rainy afternoon, Megan found Lily crying in her room. "My rabbit is ruined." The old stuffed toy had finally fallen apart. Daniel quietly sat beside her. "I'm sorry, sweetheart." "It's okay," Lily whispered, trying to be brave. That night Megan secretly stayed awake sewing the rabbit back together. The next morning Lily hugged her so tightly Megan almost cried. "No one's ever fixed Bunny before." Daniel watched from the doorway. "Thank you." Something changed between them after that. One evening they sat on the porch watching the sunset. Daniel asked softly, "Can I tell you something?" "Sure." "My wife died 4 years ago." "I'm sorry." "So am I." He looked toward Lily playing in the yard. I promised her mother I'd make sure Lily always felt loved. You've kept that promise. I try. Megan realized she had stopped thinking about the marriage contract. She actually enjoyed coming home. Then strange things started happening. Every month expensive gifts appeared anonymously on Daniel's porch. A new washing machine. Fresh groceries. A new roof installed while they were away. Daniel always seemed surprised. I don't know who keeps doing this. Megan suspected one of the neighbors. Daniel simply smiled. Whoever it is, they're very kind. Meanwhile, Victor continued pressuring Megan to sign business papers. You're married now. I'm still reading everything. You don't trust me? No. Victor's smile disappeared. Months later, Megan visited the company without warning. She overheard Victor talking on the phone. Once I get her signature, the rest of the assets are mine. Her heart pounded. She secretly photographed the documents on his desk before leaving. That night she showed them to Daniel. He studied every page carefully. Then he looked unusually serious. You shouldn't sign anything. You understand corporate law? A little. She laughed. You keep surprising me. I've had an interesting life. She had no idea how true that was. A few days later, Lily's school announced a fundraiser. Parents were asked to donate what they could. Daniel quietly wrote a check. When the principal looked at the amount, her eyes became huge. Sir, this is enough to renovate the entire playground. Daniel smiled. The kids deserve it. The principal tried to thank him publicly. He politely refused. Please don't mention my name. Megan stared at him all the way home. How could you afford that? He smiled. I've been saving. She wasn't convinced. Then came the biggest surprise. One morning, several black SUVs stopped outside their little house. Men in business suits stepped out. They greeted Daniel respectfully. Good morning, sir. Megan froze. Daniel sighed. I hoped this day wouldn't come. Who are these people? They work for me. She laughed nervously. What do you mean? One of the men handed Daniel a folder. The board meeting begins in 2 hours. Daniel turned toward Megan. I think it's time you knew the truth. He drove her to the tallest office building in the city. Every employee greeted him with respect. Elevators were held open. Executives stood when he entered. Megan whispered, "What's happening?" Daniel finally answered. My full name is Daniel Brooks Harrison. She blinked. The Harrison family? He nodded. The Harrisons owned one of the largest private investment companies in America. For years, newspapers had wondered why the company's mysterious owner never appeared in public. I inherited everything after my father died, Daniel explained. I don't understand. My family believed money attracts the wrong people. So you pretended to be poor? I chose a simple life after losing my wife. But, why? Because Lily needed a father more than the company needed a billionaire. Megan couldn't speak. Daniel continued quietly. I never lied to you. You let me believe you were struggling. I wanted someone to know me, not my money. Tears filled her eyes. And now? Now someone is trying to steal what belongs to you. Within days, Daniel's legal team investigated Victor. The evidence was overwhelming. For years, Victor had secretly moved company money into fake businesses he controlled. He had even forged parts of Megan's father's estate documents. The marriage condition had been added after her father's death. When confronted in court, Victor denied everything. Daniel calmly placed one final document before the judge. It contained Victor's own recorded confession. The courtroom fell silent. Weeks later, Victor was sentenced to prison for fraud. Megan finally became the rightful owner of her father's company. Reporters surrounded her outside the courthouse. "Did you marry Daniel because he's a billionaire?" She smiled. "No." "When did you find out?" "Long after I had already fallen in love with the man who packed lunches, fixed broken toys, and taught his daughter to be kind." Daniel reached for her hand. "I was afraid you'd leave." She smiled through tears. "I almost did." "What changed?" "You." A year later, they reopened Megan's father's company under a new name. The business hired veterans, single parents, and people who struggled to find work. Daniel insisted every employee receive paid family leave. Lily proudly cut the ribbon at the grand opening. She looked up at Megan. "Can I call you Mom now?" Megan knelt and hugged her tightly. "I've been hoping you would." The crowd burst into applause. That evening, the three of them sat on the same porch where everything had quietly begun. The house was still modest. Daniel refused to move into a mansion. "This place reminds Lily of her mom," he said. "And it reminds me where happiness found us." Megan leaned against his shoulder. For the first time in years, she felt completely at peace. She had once believed wealth meant fancy houses, expensive cars, and powerful titles. Now she understood the richest people were the ones who protected others, kept their promises, and loved without expecting anything in return. Because real riches aren't measured by what's in your bank account. They're measured by the people who smile when you walk through the front door. If this story touched your heart, let us know in the comments what lesson you learned. Tell us where you're watching from, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you in the next story.